Hello everybody, how you doing today? This is Pastor Green, and I just wanted to talk about something. I've had a lot of people that have asked me the different, I guess you can say, titles of a pastor, what they mean and what's the significance of them. And I just want to say in the beginning that a lot of these kind of overlap a little bit, or they kind of mean almost the same thing. So the first one would be considered like a priest. That'd be like the Catholics, some Lutherans, things like that. And I don't exactly know why they call themselves priests. If I was to make an assumption, because in the Bible, the 12 tribes of Israel were broken up into 12 different groups, I guess you could say. And one of the groups was the Levites, and they were considered the pastors. Nobody were allowed to be pastors except for the Levites. And they call themselves the priestly tribe. And so I'm guessing since Catholicism was started around 300 AD, that ideal of priest kind of stayed around a little bit. The priest kind of denotes somebody who is almost chosen by God, or is really close to God, or something like that. Because the Levites, only the Levites could be priests, basically. Nobody else could. So it's almost like the priests are something special, something separated from God. And I don't know exactly all the reasons behind it, but the Catholic Church kind of bothers me a little bit. And I don't mean to like bash the religion at all, but they have this doctrine where whatever the Pope says is basically law. Whatever the Pope says is doctrine. And it becomes a problem after a while. If you know, just recently, the Pope has said that he's pro-homosexual marriage. Well, that's a problem because the Bible goes against that. But the Catholic doctrine says whatever the Pope says is the new law. And so what happens is if the Pope says something out of turn or contrary to the Bible, you're supposed to believe the Pope over the Bible and over what Jesus has said. And I find that to be a problem. I'm not saying that the word priest denotes that, but basically priests, I think it goes off the Levites, the priestly tribe. The second term is basically pastor. And pastor is a very generic term for somebody who is in front of the church and preaches the gospel. Anybody can really basically be the pastor as long as they're the person in the front of the church giving the gospel. And the second one is called a preacher. And a preacher simply just means it's somebody who preaches the gospel. You could be somebody on the corner preaching the gospel. That'd be a preacher. Pastors would be preachers. Priests would be preachers. Anybody who preaches the gospel would be considered a preacher. The next one's called an evangelist. And basically, evangelists are preachers, but the thing that denotes them is they travel. So, a preacher would be somebody like John the Baptist, who preaches the gospel. They go to the same place every day, and they preach the gospel. Or an evangelist would be somebody more like Paul, who traveled all over and preached the gospel. So evangelist denotes somebody who is traveling, somebody who teaches the gospel all over the place and is traveling. The next term would be called basically an apologist, or somebody who practices apologetics. And all that really means is that you're defending the Bible. You are somebody says something contrary to what the Bible says, and you basically correct them. Or if somebody attacks the Bible, you basically correct them. And most evangelists would be probably apologetics, because evangelists, for the most part, are out there preaching to random people, and you have to defend the Bible, or else people aren't going to believe what you say. So there's some pastors that are evangelists. There's some pastors that are apologists. There's some evangelists that are apologists. There's some evangelists that are not. But most people that evangelize are called apologetics. And so let me give you just an example of what I'm talking about. So on my channel, you'll see a bunch of different kinds of videos. One of them would be Bible studies. So my Bible study videos would be basically a preacher. I'm preaching the gospel. I am telling you what the Bible says. I'm not talking to anybody. There is comments that are posted, obviously, but I'm not talking to anybody. So what's called preaching the Bible. And then I got a set of videos called creation seminars. And in my creation seminars, what I'm basically doing is I'm taking an ideal like the Big Bang Theory, evolution, age of the earth, things like that, and I am teaching you what the Bible says about it. And so that would be a term of apologetics, basically. But I'm not really preaching the Bible, but I'm being an apologist. Now, if I was to go to churches and preach any of my messages, multiple different churches, I'd be what's called an evangelist. And most evangelists, if they go to a church, they have like 6 or 7 preset messages, and they just preach those all over the place. Where a pastor is usually different all the time. But because my messages would be, for instance, if I was to go to a church to do a Bible study, I wouldn't be an apologist unless there's questions at the end. Then I guess I could be an apologist. But if I'm doing my creation seminars, I'd be what's called an evangelist, or not an evangelist, but an apologist. So those are basically the different terminology for the titles of a pastor. It's not really not one is better than the other one. Most pastors, most preachers, most pastors I should say, preach to people that are already saved or are interested in getting saved. Where most evangelists, unless you only preach at a church, are there to reach people that are mostly unsaved. So that would be another denotion between the differences. So, like I said, if you're teaching people that are unsaved, you pretty much need to know how to do apologetics, or else people are not going to believe what you say. If you're preaching a message and you have somebody that's basically saying everything you say and they're just discounting it, and if you don't correct them, people aren't really going to believe what your stories. Anyways, guys, I appreciate you guys watching my video. Like, share, subscribe, comment below. Tell me what you guys think about different denotions of pastor, whether it's a priest or apologist or an evangelist or a pastor. Let me know what you guys think and what you think people should be. And also, you need to understand that the Bible says that there's no schooling involved in any of these things. You don't got to go to college. You don't got to go to schooling. You don't got to go to seminary. You don't do any of those things to preach the gospel. In fact, it says that everybody should preach the gospel. But for some people, going to college helps them because they get to learn things about the Bible they didn't know. I went to college. I got my bachelor's degree. But there wasn't a lot of things that I learned because I came into the gospel as somebody that was not a believer. And so I researched things myself. And that's why I ended up knowing as much as I do, is because I wanted to see everybody's points and basically take the things that I used and counter them. So anyways, guys, that's the video. I appreciate you guys watching it. Like I said, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Tell a friend about it. And if you have any questions, let me know. Have yourself a great day.